Hello, everyone, and welcome to a relaxing chat about the Game Gear. I'm not going to be going over any real history about the Game Gear, just anecdotal experiences with the console. So let's jump in. For those that don't know, the Game Gear is pretty much the Sega response to the very successful Game Boy and Game Boy Color. What's interesting about the Game Gear is how ahead of its time it was, and yet it wasn't nearly as successful as its Nintendo counterpart. But I loved the Game Gear as a kid. This very console that you see before you is a hand-me-down, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. It felt like a Game Boy for adults or big kids. Sega always had that effect on me. Here's my collection of games. And I have two reproduction cases for two of the games. Actually, opening them might be pretty loud, but trust me, they're in there. So the main reason I liked the Game Gear is because of two little games. Sonic the Hedgehog and Revenge of Drankon. I think that's how you say that. I loved these games growing up. I had no idea what their history was. Apparently, this game right here is actually part of a series called Monster Boy, which is a 2D side scroller where you play as a boy and you transform into men. Just kidding, you transform into little monsters, like a lion, a lizard that breathes fire, etc. There's a bunch of little Monster Boy games that I've never played, but there's a very cool one. It's a remake on the Switch that you can check out that I liked quite a lot. I think it might be called Wonder Boy, I'm not too sure. And the other game that I played a lot of was Sonic the Hedgehog. As you can see, I have quite a lot of Sonic games for the Game Gear, but this one in particular was the one I played a lot in my youth. Again, it was a hand-me-down. As you can see, the Game Gear is a little finicky. Sometimes takes a few tries. There we go. See if we can get far in the game without having to blow on it. But as you can see, the screen is full color and has a backlight, which made it quite unique in the handheld market at the time. But those two factors also contributed to one of its downfalls, which is that it completely chewed at battery life. It didn't last very long on battery, and they required 6 entire AA batteries, which could be quite costly to support. One of the requirements that a consumer might have for a handheld is for it to be portable. And although the Game Gear is technically portable, certainly a lot bigger compared to the Game Boy, but most problematically, it didn't last nearly as long. I would take this on car trips, and I think It would maybe last 3 hours if I was lucky, which is funny because that's exactly how long the Nintendo Switch lasts. But somehow that feels more acceptable than this did back then. So I would usually actually bring my Game Gear and play it. About 3 hours in the car, long trips, and then I would have to retire it for the entire rest of the trip. So I was very into this game growing up. It probably helped me get really into the Sonic series in general. Had some great music, which I'm not going to be playing right now. And it's actually, what I didn't realize growing up, is it's actually a port of a Sega Master System title by the same name, Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's something I did not know growing up. I didn't even know what the Sega Master System was growing up. Hopefully that doesn't harm anyone by saying that. I just didn't know it existed. I knew what the Genesis was, but not the Master System. And although it's a pretty competent port of the Master System, it does come with a caveat of the screen being much smaller, the frame of view being much smaller than that of a TV. And because of that, it leads to a lot of uncertain death, because you can't see things that are coming. But there were some original Sega and Sonic Game Gear titles that were never on the Master System. But I do think that that contributed also to why the Game Gear wasn't nearly as popular as it could have been, despite its honestly really great screen for the time and really great playing experience. I still to this day find the form factor to be very nice. It feels really good to hold and very good to play. And I remember it feeling really good even back then. But still, it wasn't as successful as they want it to be. I think that has to do with a lot of the games. Nintendo was coming out with games like Zelda Link's Awakening, which were just as competent as console releases, such as the first or second Zelda. Even could be compared to the SNES title. It really felt like Nintendo cared about the games and the quality of the games that they put onto that handheld. Game Freak's Pokemon was a massive adventure and a huge success. You don't need me to tell you that. But there was nothing like it on consoles, if you don't count Shin Megami Tensei, which children can't play that anyway. The point is, it felt like Nintendo was making sure that their handheld had games that were as high quality as their console titles, while also being unique experiences. Although I really like this Sonic game a lot, even though I'm not playing too well. I did play it a lot as a kid, and I loved it. A lot of friends would look at this and see it as a inferior experience for what they could already play on their Genesis with the original Sonic the Hedgehog release on the Genesis, or the Mega Drive, depending on your region. I think people will always follow games, good games. And Sega seemed to be putting experiences on here that either felt like downgrades from their console releases or felt like they were lower effort titles. The games I have here, pretty nice for the Game Gear. I like Sonic Labyrinth. It's not a well-liked game, but in Sonic Labyrinth, you play as Sonic, and he has shoes on that cause him to walk very slowly through a maze. It isn't a very good Sonic game, but I thought it was a pretty fun adventure title to play as a kid. Similarly, there was another game that made me really want to get a Game Gear. That was Sonic Drift. I was very, very enticed by this cover. I thought that my favorite characters at the time were Knuckles and Metal Sonic. And this is one of the few times that I knew, at the time at least, that you could play as both those characters in the same game. I don't even know if you could play as, looks like I died when I wasn't paying attention. I don't even know if there was a game that let you play as Metal Sonic at the time. You can play as him now in some titles such as Sonic 4 and Sonic Adventure DX. But at the time, I didn't know of anything where I could play as Metal Sonic. And there was only a few games that let me play as Knuckles. But unfortunately, I think Sonic Drift falls within the category of being an inferior experience compared to what people could have on consoles. It was certainly fun to play, but when comparing to something like Mario Kart, it just didn't hit the same notes. I think there are some great Game Gear titles, but looking at the entire catalog, I can see why consumers might not have been drawn to it as they were the Game Boy. So you'll see soon I was too slow and Sonic will slowly but surely demise. Oh wait, maybe I can save myself. There we go. Never mind. I thought I was done. I have some other games here that you can see. Lion King is another example. I love the Game Gear version of Lion King, but there was a Super Nintendo version of it, as well as the Genesis version. And although I have fine memories of playing it, I'm sure that many could argue that it was an inferior experience compared to what you could get readily on other consoles. I think a big component of why I liked the Game Gear was because my family growing up only had one television. So handhelds were a major gaming outlet for me. I might have had a Sega Genesis, but I didn't get to play it nearly as much as I would have liked without having full autonomy over the television. So I wouldn't be surprised if I clocked more hours into the game that you're seeing right now compared to the actual Sonic the Hedgehog on the Genesis. So handheld games were a big primary part of my gaming experience growing up, because I always had full autonomy of when it could be turned on and when it could be turned off. That was pretty nice. But I think most consumers didn't have that problem. They were able to access their TV as often as they wanted, and handhelds were more seen as a travel companion rather than an at-home experience. Let's see if I can get another game inside. Get it running. Another game that I always thought was very cool. This is a little title, Tempo Junior. Now, as a kid, I actually didn't realize Tempo Junior had a console release. I wasn't that familiar with the console known as the Sega 32X. But so to me, Tempo Junior was only a Game Gear game. And I thought it was really pretty for the time. I liked the art a lot. You can see everything is very well animated and bouncy. You shoot little music notes. I'm looking at it now, the animation actually looks quite ridiculous. This is me looking up. It's me looking down. It's a fun little platformer adventure title. I never got very far in it. That was actually a big thing about playing games as a kid. I was never very good at them. I'm still not very good at them. But they were always fun. I always kind of viewed them as little playgrounds that I could jump around within my very room. And actually getting to the end of the level was never the goal for me. It was just to have a good time. He looks sad right now. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it's because it's nighttime over there. It's very strange. There's a sound cue that I missed. You have your health bar on the side there. I would say that I don't know a lot about the Game Gear or its games, but the time that I had it growing up was a formidable one. So I'm thankful that it existed, even if it was never as successful as the Game Boy, or could even be argued it was never as good. I liked it. And I guess that's what matters most. Well, that's my little chat about the Game Gear. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want, I can actually put some effort into a video like this and research the Game Gear more. I actually have a few other titles that aren't here right now. I can maybe show a few more of them. And also tell some stories about the Game Gear, experiencing it as a kid, such as sneaking it into my elementary school so I could show my friends. I hope you're having a good new year, and take care.